You can't see, but I've got goosebumps like coming up around my ears under these headphones.
The virality of the video.
Wedding photographers and videographers are a little bit apprehensive.
But I got I think it's like 8.4 million on that.
Nobody goes from 1850 to 10k.
Because I send a voice message, the more likely to send a voice message back.
TikTok's like a strange blend between a YouTube and an Instagram.
They're expecting to see the $10,000 camera after they've seen the iPhone footage.
People do underestimate YouTubers.
1999 and 1950.
Mine was like that until about 6 months ago.
The person who's best to compare myself to is me.
We remove our opinion on all of the content.
Shock horror, my Insta360 caught the whole thing.
It's going to sound awful and probably get crucified for this.
Oh, yeah, something has happened once, but the police have come.
How's it going, guys? Welcome to another Facebook Live. It's Wednesday. We go live every single Wednesday at 12 o'clock. And in today's live, we are going to be looking at instantly write better ads with these 3 simple steps. And this is a really important one, and we're going to get into why it's important in a second. But Jamie Wade, how are you doing, mate? What's been going on?
All good, mate. All good. I'm excited to get into this one because this is sometimes the writing of ads is the thing that a lot of videographers and photographers don't like to do, but this is where if you can overcome that part, this is where for a lot, this is where like mental, not laziness, but mental frustration creeps in the most, and people just don't do it and kind of give up and kind of assume that the writing and the text on your ads isn't as valuable as the content itself, but that's not the case, and we're going to get into that today. I'm excited.
Sky is just saying, woo, I'm in the gum again. Let's go. Was that meant to be, I'm in the game?
I don't know. That might be some regional talk.
It might be some slang that we're talking about a couple of times on these lives, but good to have you on, Sky, nevertheless, anyway. But yeah, let us know who's in the comments. I can see people are starting to come in now. I know Facebook takes a while to let you guys know that we are going live, so just be ready in the group at 12 o'clock, and you're not going to miss any of these Facebook lives. But Jamie, where do you want to start today? Or in the gym? He's in the gym. Yeah. So actually, I feel like you're always in the gym every Wednesday. This must be your regular slot, is it? So Jamie, instantly write better ads with these 3 simple steps. Where do you want to start?
Yeah, I think it's important, really important, to start with the end in mind. I think that I'm just going to close. I've got the live up on my left-hand side here, and it's making my video really slow today, and I'm in tune now. Yeah, it's important. I think step 1 is to start with the end in mind. And what that means is that we have to, we want people to become a lead. Now, how do people become a lead? It's not by just, trying to become a shepherd that rallies as many sheep to your website as possible. We need to hook people in with emotion and get them to the website to become a lead, because remember, consumer psychology is people buy with emotion and then reason that emotion with logic. So it's important that we follow that consumer psychology process, but starting with the end in mind, we want them to become a lead. How do they become a lead? Because they're emotionally compelled. They're going to reason that with logic after the fact. So remember, emotion comes first, logic comes second. That's why we don't start ads with awards that you've won, accolades, how long you've been doing it, how much experience you've got, what your pricing is, your crazy discount, whatever nonsense that is. That is not an emotional trigger. You will never, ever generate emotion in an engaged couple when they read that line. They cannot connect that to their emotions. So we need to start with something that is emotional. And then all of that other stuff comes into the logic side. So that's the end of that's the second stage, of that consumer psychology. But starting with the end in mind is starting with, what do we want them to feel when they read this copy? What reaction do we want of them, is a better way to put it. What reaction do we want to get out of somebody that reads this ad and watches this piece of content? When you start with that, you start to, it makes coming up with an open emotion much, much easier.
It's like even when you just say it out loud, because I know there'll be people on this live now who regularly do post like things like, get in touch with me now, 495, 30% discount. But even when you just say, right, like even when you just say it out loud and think about it, put yourself in the bride's shoes for a second, right? She's scrolling through Facebook, right? She's looking at the bride to be. She's scrolling through Facebook. She's not really thinking about a wedding at the minute because she's just on Facebook. She's just scrolling. And then she sees an ad that says, book me now, 495, 30% off, nearly booked. Scroll past, right? She's, you haven't grabbed her attention. Now think about, right? You're scrolling through. She's not even thinking about her wedding. She sees someone in a wedding dress, really emotional, and then the hook comes across the screen or at the top of the copy and it says, I'll never forget the look on my dad's face on the wedding dress. She is 100% stopping on that ad. I mean, maybe not 100% of the time, but there's a very high probability because she's getting married, that is really going to grab her attention. And that's what we need to do. We need to grab people's attention. But when you're talking about actually writing ads, yes, you can grab their attention with the creative, but then you want to get that emotion across, not only on the video or the images that you're posting as your ads, you want them to read the copy. I think people really underestimate, Jamie, how important like copy is. Like, I know copy has always been probably the most important part of an ad, like it's what sells, but I know creatives are massively on the up and it's probably level with that now. But when people stop on the ad and they start reading, it's so important to get that emotion across.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's really important. And I think most of the time people buy things because of the words they read or hear. So it's that communication, you know, creative is always gonna grab more attention because somebody doesn't have to, you know, make a decision to try and read something. It's just something that is like, it's like they're walking down the street and you jump in front of them. That's the kind of, you know what I mean? That's what creative allows you to do, your image or your video. That's what that gives you that ability to do. But it's, okay, the copy. So for example, headlines, text over videos, all that kind of stuff. That's all copywriting. That's all ads. That's, for me, and I'll die on this hill, copywriting is the most important skill in marketing because you cannot write good copy by making an attention-grabbing video, but you can make an attention-grabbing video by knowing how to write good copy. So it is the most important skill. And once you've got attention, what do you do with it? You need to be able to sell. People need to go, they read the rest of your ad, they go to your website and read the copy on there that convinces them to go and become a lead. That's why it's really important to get a grip of this and get a grasp on it. And we start with the end in mind. We've got to start, before you start writing anything, start with the question to yourself, right? What reaction do I want from somebody who reads this ad or this post?
And what's important as well is that when we're running ads for people outside of the wedding industry, so like other niches like online business coaches and that sort of stuff, we'll always in the copy go after like the big problems or the big pain points that the customers have. Well, when people are getting married, people don't necessarily know that they have these problems. Like for an example, a wedding photographer, videographer, your big problem is that you're not generating enough leads through social media. It's a huge problem. You know, you're not getting enough leads. You're not getting enough bookings. So people can write ads and they can go after that pain point. Where wedding people who are getting married don't necessarily have a pain point necessarily until we actually point it out to them. We can make them aware. And for example, one massive thing that we can say is, like, imagine waking up the day after your wedding and not being able to remember all of the best moments. I mean, we can write it much better than that. I'm just freestyling here. But you know what I mean? Versus that hook or that copy that says, book me now, and it's got a price with a discount. The other one gets them to buy in. But not only that, it gets them thinking about the wedding. If you're talking about book me now with a discount, then might just scroll past. But if you say, imagine waking up the day after your wedding and not being able to remember everything, it's like, well, why would I not be able to remember anything? Then they want to read the rest of your copy. And it's like, well, what else have you got to say? And I'll say things like, imagine you can't remember the groom reaction or how your parents were on the dance floor together. How your grandparents had that magical kiss that was caught on video. Like when you start leading with emotion, it buys people in. It's like, do you know what? This is the person that I want to be wedding. They start to buy in as you as the wedding photographer or the videographer. You want them to be able to imagine themselves at the wedding when they're kind of in, what's the word I'm looking for, digesting your content and reading your copy. And this copy, you're all talking about like writing better ads. This goes across to your website stuff as well. So if you can nail the whole copy side, you're not massively going to just improve your ads. You're going to improve the conversions on your website as well because it's all linked.
Yeah, and I think that's the key there. That's the that's the really important part of, just let it sink in. That emotion is what's going to be, is what we need to start with. They've got to feel something when they read that first line. They have to feel something, whether it's curiosity, whether it's, a lump in the throat because of whatever it is about, somebody that might be passed, or, like whatever it might be. Like you've got to make sure that they feel something, and that is the key. Like whether it's a review, if we can help them visualize that as well with the words that we use, that's really, really key. That can be massively important. Being able to kind of control what they see in that sense, in terms of what they see in their mind when they read the copy. So, for example, I think I talked about, maybe touched on this last week, but when somebody reads the words "capturing amazing moments" at your wedding, those amazing moments, like some people won't picture anything, but most people will picture something different. Everyone that pictures something will picture something different. Well, we want to control that to really sink that point home. So instead of saying "capturing amazing moments from your wedding day," you could say, which isn't a great line anyway, but you could say "capturing every tear that rolls down a cheek, every laugh, every embarrassing move on the dance floor." Like, as we say those things, we're controlling that vision in their mind, and we're helping to control the emotion. Now, not from like an evil controlling emotions point of view, but we're trying to get them. We're trying to move them towards becoming a lead, and we'll do that by starting with the end in mind and figuring out what reaction we want from them.
Sky's just got a question, Jamie. Sky's saying, any tips of getting emotional text on a Google ad, or is that not possible?
It's possible, but you have to remember that Google ads are more of the logical side than they are emotional, because people are searching for it. So they're probably already kind of hooked in. You can put kind of what Billy touched on was that, they don't have any pain points yet. So the only way you can kind of warn them of pain points is by warning them that they might happen. It's what we call the stakes. So like, what's at stake? Google Ads headlines obviously have got to be short. So any way that you can develop a really short Google Ads text that actually has a little bit of emotion, but more logic as well, because they've got the reasoning with logic at that moment. But you still got to kind of hook them in at the same time, and emotion is always the best way to do that. I think starting with the way that I would do this is that I would always run meta ads first, so ads on Facebook and Instagram first, and I would use the Thunderdome system to test those headlines and the emotional moments that work best, and then I'd move those to the Google ads.
It's important as well to remember as well, and you kind of did touch on this, but just to remember the difference between Facebook and Google. So like you said, Jamie did say this actually, that on Google, they've already got the intent because they actively have gone to Google and they've typed in wedding photographer or wedding videographer. Where on Facebook, we're trying to grab their attention and get them interested, but based on their behavior of what they've been doing. And this is why the Thunderdome system is a great way to structure your ads and set up your ads, is because Facebook will serve your ads to people on Facebook based on what they've been interacting with. So although they might have an intent there, we still need to grab their attention for everyone else. We're on Google, they're obviously going to Google and they're typing in wedding photographer or videographer, and Google's presenting them with all of the results. So you can still have emotion in there, but it's just a different angle that you need to go on. Just a good question here, Jamie, from Sky, just saying, do you have to be careful not to overpromise though? Every tier won't be possible. Is that likely to come back to you after? I think you're thinking about it just a little bit too much. Yeah, they'll not even remember that. They'll not even remember that actual that moment, because they would have read the rest of your copy after that, and there's so many other things that you'll talk about. It's more about just giving them, being able to picture people cry, and then you'll capture it, because obviously, yes, you can't capture every tear. People may not even cry, but it's just kind of giving them a visualization of what it will be like if people do cry and you do capture it. I don't know if you've got anything to expand on that.
I don't think anyone's going to say like, well, my nan cried and there's no pictures of it. Like nan, I mean, generally speaking, you're probably going to focus on those people anyway, but you're not going to say like, my second cousin said that she cried and there's no pictures of it, fuming. because it's not.
Here's me changing my contract now to mention if I don't capture every tier, I'm not held liable. You've planted a seed in us now, Sky.
No, it's not. It's just not going to happen. It's not something that's what's the way to put it? It's not like people don't actually want you to massively document every single second. They want you to document the highlights. So you could, if you want to do, instead of saying every tier, you could say like, I would just say every tier. It's just not something that's going to come up. Like, like in an advert for someone's advertising Pepsi and they say it's the best tasting cola drink. Nobody's going to be like, well, fucking take that. Nobody's going to sue them because they prefer Coca-Cola. Do you know what I mean? That's not going to happen. I think it's overthinking it, just a little bit of worry creeping in, which is understandable. I've done it in the past on different things, but not going to happen.
Well, I even like on my ads, Sky, like I'll have like capture every emotion, capture every moment, relive every moment, capture every emotion, relive every moment. There's no way that I can capture every single moment and let them relive every moment. It's every emotion. It's impossible to do that.
And they also don't know the ones that weren't captured, because if they know about it, then you're focusing on the bride and groom, so you've captured it. So they don't know about the things that haven't happened. If that makes sense.
It's more just when you're writing copy like this, it's more just about making them being able to visualize it. Like Jamie said there, like if you say you're going to capture every moment of a wedding versus like the tear rolling down an eye or your dad's reaction or the groom's reaction. If you say something like the groom reaction, they'll be able to see their partner when they're coming down the aisle. They'll sort of visualize it. Not everyone will, of course, but some people will be able to visualize it, and it makes that connection a lot stronger.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
What about number 2, Jamie? What's tip 2 of the 3?
Yeah, so tip 1 was start with the end in mind. Tip 2 is create a curiosity gap. Now, this is something that really helps to get people to continuously watch and read. You'll see that like people just in general, just standard content creators on like Instagram and TikTok and stuff, they'll just be like, wait for the reaction at the end or watch till the end or something like that. That's like the thing that average people have done to help people watch their videos and stuff. But creating a curiosity gap is about leaving something, not necessarily a promise, but you're gonna hint towards an outcome or hint towards, you're gonna leave that gap, what we call an open loop as well, so that people want to find out what happens. Things like starting things like and obviously these things have to happen, but like as an example, I'll never forget the look on my dad's face when he saw me in my wedding dress, as a quote. Now it's like, right, I want to see that look. I want to see what that look was. So now you want to see it. Or you could, and again, these things have to happen, but like, I always think of, like when they hug and they say something, there's always like something. You could start off like, what did this dad whisper to his daughter? And what did this father whisper in his daughter's ear when he's seen her for the first time in the wedding dress? Like, do you know what I mean? Then it creates that emotional.
I can't believe me husband said this to us on my wedding.
Yeah, that's an entertaining version. Yeah, like so obviously, so we got to come from the point of view of photography, videography, that kind of thing. What is the creating that curiosity gap is going to get people, it's going to really hook people interested and make them continue to watch, continue to read, click to find out more, want to go onto your website, all of that stuff. That curiosity gap is it's also, by the way, it's also how films are written all of the time. Like you'll always see, like, generally speaking, your favorite film, anyone's favorite film in here is going to start with a character that has a major problem and needs a guide to help them get to their dream outcome. So, I don't know, name a film. This is the ultimate test.
Name a film. Jason Bourne.
Jason Bourne is, well, straight away, you tell me. What's the character's urgent problem? What's Jason's
What's his urgent problem? He's trying to get tracked down by the whole world.
Exactly. How's he going to survive it? Even you can go off to the realms of the Wolf of Wall Street. What's Jordan Belfort's biggest problem? He needs to earn more money. He's desperate to earn more money, but he's been flung into this stocks and changes world. That's a little, it's very controversial and stuff. But you can see that he starts to enjoy it. So is it going to help? Like it happens. There's curiosity gaps. That's how you get people to watch films. The end bingeable Netflix shows, they finish on a curiosity gap. TV shows, TV series, they finish on it every time. So there's a series on Netflix that we've just finished called Griselda, which was really good. And every time we've finished on an episode of that, not every time, but almost every time, my missus would go, "It's going to finish here," because it would be like it's when they get to the edge of the seat, the credits roll, and you find out in the next episode. That's that curiosity gap. When you deploy that in my writing and in my headlines, and that's going to get people to want to watch and read more.
I seen a funny TikTok about this just when you're talking about Netflix, where some guy on Netflix said that he purposely finishes every episode in the middle so he doesn't have to watch another one and stay up to like 3 a.m. But the curiosity thing though is it's really important though. Like this is why the video that I got organically, this wasn't even on paid ads, had over 1 million views because it just, 1 million views it had. I can't remember, it was like 1.1 million, something like that. And it was because it just said, wait for his reaction. And there was a groom standing there. And we've mentioned this on a lot. And Rob also got his done much better than mine. He got 1.6, 1.7 million views on the same type of thing. Wait for the end or wait for his reaction. Because if people are getting married, the hook says, wait for his reaction. You're going to watch the video because you want to see what the reaction is. And this is why if you just spend like 15 minutes scrolling through TikTok, doesn't even have to be wedding content, like any type of content, you're going to see curiosity across loads of different videos, because the whole point of getting the way to get your video pushed out on the social platforms by the algorithm is to get more higher watch time. It's one of the biggest triggers for the algorithm to say, right, this is a good video, I'm going to send it out to more people. And the way to get people to watch more of your video is generate curiosity so they want to stay until the end.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's very important. Really solid tip. And I think that, I don't know if if anybody's got any questions on the curiosity gap and you can't think of examples or anything like that, I can guarantee that they have happened at weddings. Like especially if you're a videographer, but even photographers, you aren't short for moments that you can create curiosity gaps around. It's just being able to come up with them and use them. And that's what, if I can give you a tip on how to create the curiosity around a moment. Let's say we've used the dad reveal or the father's first look or whatever it might be, and we've also used the groom's, wait for his reaction. And I think, by the way, going on to that groom one that you pointed out, it's really important as well for that is that the first frame matches the headline. It's wait for his. You don't even need to play the video for longer than 1 second, because the first frame is a nervous groom waiting, and the headline says wait for his reaction. So instantly, there's a big promise, and you want to see what it is, especially if the brides, because the brides want that for their wedding. They want their groom to react in an emotional way.
They want him to cry.
Yeah, it's the dream outcome. It's that it's part of the vision that they have. So I think that, if I can give you any tips to actually come up with curious lines, is just like, think about the payoff or the promise of what happens. So like write a headline where it's like, right, this is what happens. Just remove the happens and then turn it into a question. But start there and you'll be off to a really good start.
What are you thinking? Like did he cry or not? I wonder if that would get people to watch, like a picture of the groom at the front. I mean, the only problem with that is you could only use it once, because people would get sick of it, wouldn't they, if you kept using that one? But try and think of a question. I think it's a really good point.
Yeah.
Do I have any questions, by the way? If we've got any questions, I know we've got a few people on, get them in the comments and we're going to answer those questions for you.
I've got a question for everybody that's watching. Videographers and photographers. since we started this group, or it'll be a year next month, will it? Was it March?
Yeah,
I mean, it was March.
I think it might have been March. Yeah, I think it might be a year.
So
March.
it's opened my eyes to, obviously I haven't been married before. I'm engaged to be married, but it's opened my eyes to how long the days are for photographers and videographers in most cases. How do you keep going? Because Monster, is it coffee or Monster, or what do you take? Do you take any? What you're just
I don't have.
high
I'm
energy
literally
individual.
just. I live on life. That's what I do. I never have energy drinks ever. Never ever. If
I
I'm at a
only get them
wedding,
when I'm struggling.
if I'm at a wedding, generally like I'll have a couple of black coffees. Do you know what? It's a crazy thing, right? I always find that when you're at a wedding, you're that busy. Everything's just constantly happening until you have the meal. You don't really think about it because you're just like bang, 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 bang. And then when you sit down, you're just like, whew, God.
We were having a discussion about like whether the couples should feed the photographers and videographers and stuff. But genuinely, if I was doing like, because how long are the days on average, do you think?
10 hours, 12 hours.
10 hours. If I have a big like roast dinner style meal in the middle of that, I'm dead. I would
Yeah,
be
it's-
wanting to graze throughout. For me, that would be the only way for me to keep going, is like grazing throughout. I would
Mhm.
never want to sit down and have a big sandwich or a big meal.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's just me. That's a personal preference. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm like that. Like I try not to eat too much, or maybe like a couple of protein bars and things like that. But never energy drinks. Never.
Do you know what does my head? The same thing. No, when people say, "Let's go for a curry and then for a few drinks." Once I've had a curry, mate, I'm ready for my bed. Good night. See you later. I'll go for a few drinks and then go for a curry, but I don't understand how people do it the other way around.
It's impossible. Absolutely impossible because it wipes you out. Doesn't know we've got any questions coming in at the minute. So what about number 3? So we've done number 1, which was start with the end in mind. We've done number 2, which is the curiosity gap and creating curiosity within your posts. What about number 3?
Yeah, so number 3 is really important. It's writing like you talk. Writing like you talk is an important one, not just for conversational tone, but also for readability, and to feel like people. It will help people feel like they get to know you more. Also, when you write like you talk, your writing becomes an easier grade of reading level. Excuse me, to understand. So, for example, you don't want to use words that you would never really say out loud. Like words like, I don't know, what are words that are like technical jargon? Not necessarily technical, but like words that, because some people think that in order to write an ad, you have to sound professional, but relatable is professional. You don't have to sound complicated or use words that you wouldn't use. Don't use like Stephen King's got a quote, like if you try to like Google a thesaurus for another word, you shouldn't use it. You shouldn't need to Google a word or use a tool to come up with a word if you don't use it in the everyday talk. Just get rid of it. So like, I don't know, like I'm trying to think now of a word that people use regularly that you wouldn't really say out loud.
My mind always goes back to like, I know we're talking about ads specifically here, but the way people send emails, because they always feel like they need to be like,
kind regards.
They always need to be like, they always need to be like really corporate and professional, but you want to be relatable every time.
Yeah.
Every frame a Rembrandt.
See, yeah, that's a good example. Rembrandt, confusion. You would never ever say that out loud.
It's not got a T.
You would never ever say that out loud.
I don't think I had a T. It has. Did I say that right? Rembrandt.
Rembrandt, yeah.
Rembrandt. You wouldn't think I used to be a teacher, do you? I know that's a really good point, Paul. That was Paul who said that, by the way. And that's exactly it. Because if you use words, like I had to Google just the exact meaning of that there. So if you've got to do that, then it defeats the whole object. If people, when they're reading your copyright, if people have got to burn mental calories to work out what you're saying, you're not going to get the sale. A confused mind doesn't buy. So that's why you've got to be really clear, and you've got to get that. You've got to get the reading grade down. And there's a really good app, actually, Jamie, that Hemingway app. And it's called Hemingway app, but it's actually a website and it's free, where you can literally copy and paste your add copy into there, and it's going to give it a reading grade. And what we're aiming for, 6 or 7's okay, right?
Want like between 5 and 7, really.
There's a massive lag there on your audio when you spoke. I can see your mouth moving off before.
That's why I'm trying to delete tabs and stuff here, because I think I've got too many open.
But just when Jamie's sorting that, though, it is a go and have a look at the Hemingway app, because we use it all of the time. Because even sometimes when you think, and it's a reading age, by the way, of like a grade 6 or a grade 7 person, because you want to make it so it's so clear to understand, but people aren't thinking about it. So if people, like I said, are confused about what you say, and they're just going to scroll past, because they're especially when they're on social media, who's got time on social media to Google the words of your post? They'll just scroll past. It needs to be really clear and precise about what your message is. And then it goes back to what we were talking about in the kind of other copy examples, where when they're reading, they're getting that clear picture in the mind about you actually being at the wedding and shooting it. It's always about painting the picture so they can visualize it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's once you've got, generally speaking, people will read, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, grade 5 reading level is like about a 9 or 10-year-old. And that's generally speaking, that reading level is what a relaxed adult brain will be easily able to read in without concentration. So we don't want to force them to have to concentrate to read, because they'll just move on, because that's not what they're on social media to do. They're on social media to not concentrate and just relax the brain and continually scroll for dopamine hits, basically.
But definitely go and check your emails as well, though, because I reckon you'll have some hidden gems inside of there. And if you read them back to yourself, you'll be like, why did I say that in an email to a bride? Because you definitely don't need to sound professional. It's such a, like I've just mentioned there, right? I used to be a teacher. I was a teacher for 10 years, right? And just thinking about some of the emails that people used to send makes me toes curl. And I would used to read them and I'd be like, why are you saying this sort of stuff in an email? Like, why don't you just write it normally? Like, there's no need to try and sound clever on your emails, in your ads. You just want to be clear, easy to read. People can visualize it. You're to the point, and it gets them thinking about it. It gets them interested, and you hook them in. That's what it's about. No one cares. Like, and do you know what it is, though? People, this is a good point as well, right? People overcomplicate it and they don't realize that they're doing it.
Yeah.
Like people just write because they think because they might be in a corporate environment for work, like, or in a previous life, and then they've transitioned across to the wedding business. And it's dead easy and it's natural to them to write like that, where social is a different game altogether. You need to be social on social media.
Yes, exactly. And I think that, one really good tip for this is short sentences. Short sentences is really like, short sentences is how people talk as well. Like, the longer it is, the more complexity there is to it. But asking almost, what's the word I'm looking for? A question that doesn't need an answer.
Rhetorical question.
Rhetorical question. Asking rhetorical questions in the terms of like, ever wonder why people don't book a videographer?
Yeah.
Me too. Do you know what I mean? Like, like rhetorical questions, because that's how people talk. Like little questions, like little answers that will be like, even little things like saying things and being like, do you know what I mean? Or, trying to incorporate that in your writing where you can. And it also builds relatability, which is a really strong building block of trust.
Yeah. I think some other kind of bonus tips, just while we're on the conversation of being able to write better ads. I know we've gone over the 3 tips that we wanted to talk about, but I think the way you were talking there about short sentences, when you're doing a post or an ad on Facebook, you want to be able to space it out as well. Like I see too many times where people have got big chunks of paragraphs in one go, and it's really difficult to read. And if it looks right, like think about if something comes through the post, like just a letter, and you get some junk mail, and you've got this massive A4 paper, and it's just totally just rammed with words. You're just like, I'm not reading that. I haven't got time. I can't be asked. And it's a little bit like that on social media. If you see a massive post, I'm like, oh, do you know what? I'll read it later. I'll come back to it. But if you've got short sentences with spaces and they want to keep reading and then the next line, it makes it much easier and people buy into it more because it doesn't seem like a huge task, where if it's massive paragraphs, people are like, this is a massive task. They judge it before they've even read it.
Yeah.
Do you have any questions? I know we've gone over everything. Jamie, just while we're waiting for any questions to come in, is there any bonus tips or anything that we've not touched on that maybe you would like to have as a bonus tip, or just any advice in general for writing better ads? Maybe places. I've got a good one for you, Jamie. Where can people go to get inspiration to find ads? Like if they're struggling to come up with like ideas, right?
Well,
what types of things can people do?
Usually, I would say go to the Facebook ads library, but I really don't think there's that many people running good ads in this industry.
Yeah.
So I think in terms of somewhere to go to write better ads, I think that it's going to take some studying of different industries and stuff like that, and it will take a little bit of time to get used to. I think that there's some really there's a book by Stephen King called On Writing. It's his like memoirs of writing, which I absolutely love. It's one of my favorite books. I've listened to the audio book about 5 times now. Absolutely love it. He talks about it. This is another bonus tip is avoiding the use of adverbs. His quote in the book is actually, he's convinced that the road to hell is paved with adverbs. And I'm in the middle of writing a LinkedIn post about this because it just highlights people, if you get annoyed by people overusing the word literally or obviously or potentially or all them kind of adverbs that always come up, it's clutter. It's clutter that gets in the way of clarity. So, and it also kind of can sometimes drag you into a passive voice, which is and this is important when writing your ads as well, a passive voice where you're talking about something that has already happened, but you want to keep it in what's called an active voice, which means you're kind of describing it as it's happening. It's a much more engaging tone to write in. I think that's a really good point, like bonus tip to make sure you include. But other than that, I think the other bonus tip is to, the best ad that you write, you won't write it, you'll edit it. Like the best, that's quite a famous line. Like the best copy isn't written, it's edited. So it's gathered, compiled. It takes a few edits. Like don't just write something like on a whim and expect it to do well. Write something, take a break from it, come back to it. Try to remove as many filler words as you can, keep it clear. It's much easier to just get something down and just almost brain dump something. But then also when you come back to it, it's easier to edit it into the right way rather than try to write it first draft into the right way.
I suppose another bonus tip from me is if you're looking for somewhere to go, would be go and look at your reviews, testimonials that people have given you, but not only that, go and have a look at other wedding photographers and other wedding videographers' testimonials, because you'll find language in there. Like you always want to use the language of your dream customer as well. And like I've run many ads where I've actually used quotes from reviews that have been used, because it's the way people speak. It's the way reviews actually being written by someone, which means that when another bride to be is reading it, it's relatable because it's understandable and it's usually really straight language. So go and have a look at your testimonials and other people's reviews and testimonials, because obviously you can't go and quote someone else's testimonial if it hasn't been given to you. But what you can do, if it's not a quote, you can still say the sentence as a hook, or you could change it so it sounds like a hook. So there's some golden nuggets that you'll find inside of reviews and testimonials. It's definitely a good place to go and check.
Yeah.
Any questions before we wrap this up? We'll just stay on for another couple of minutes if we don't have any questions. So Jamie, just want to do a bit of a recap of when we're waiting for questions to come in, of the three things we can do to write better ads.
Yeah. So start with the end in mind. That is, what reaction do we want people to, what emotion reaction do we want people to feel when they not just read this ad, but read the first paragraph, the first line, first 2 sentences. What reaction do we want them to feel? Step 2 is to make sure it includes a curiosity gap. So make sure there's an open loop of, there's a bit of a promise of an outcome or something that's going to happen, but there's curiosity there, so they need to find out what happens. thinking about the end of your Netflix shows, the start of movies, whatever it might be. Create that curiosity gap, and that's gonna make your ads way more engaging. And then writing like you talk, being relatable, making sure that you sound relatable to help build trust, but that you're not writing in a way that is causing too many mental calories to be burned by the reader, which will make them switch off. You want to make it easy to read, but also interesting and compelling at the same time.
Yeah, it doesn't look like we've got any questions, but that was a good recap, and I think it's really important to understand the actual importance of your copy. It's really easy, especially in this industry, to fall into thinking, right, all I need to do is show me best work, and that's not the case at all. You've got to get them to buy in as a wedding photographer or videographer, and writing copy that gets them interested and get them hooked in, and gets them wanting more. That's what the goal is, and once you master this skill, I mean, master is probably a strong word to use, but when you get better at this skill, use that on your website as well. It's not just about your ads. It's anytime you're writing copy and anywhere it goes, emails, website, your ads, all of the above. You want to be doing this sort of stuff in those in that copy when you're writing it. But thanks very much for jumping on, guys. With another episode of the podcast is going to be released tomorrow, and me and Jamie have done this episode, and we are talking about Facebook ads and how you can use Facebook ads to generate more leads for your wedding business. So make sure that you do download and tune in and listen to that podcast episode, and we'll also see you next week, next Wednesday at 12 o'clock. Thanks very much for jumping on, guys. I appreciate it.